Hello, guys, and welcome back to the Cranky Frankly channel. We're absolutely delighted to have you guys back here to listen to another podcast. This is your host, Ishan Thapar, and I'm joined with none other than Aniket. Say hi, man.
Hey guys, and welcome back to our channel, and welcome back more importantly to another episode on the Cranky Frankly channel. This episode might be a bit different to what we did last time. We'll get on to that. But before anything, we really want to give a shout out to all the fans that supported us on the last video. It boomed. It did so well in the first 4 hours. We got more than 100 views. I think right now we're at 160 something with, like more than 25 likes. It's doing numbers and, we're delighted. We didn't expect that kind of response at all. I know I didn't. But more importantly than the numbers, me and Ishan have been so surprised by the positive feedback that we've been getting. From the fans who've actually watched the video and they've been, DMing us, whether that's on WhatsApp, Instagram, etc., etc., giving us tips on how to improve, telling us what they like, telling us what they don't like. And at the end of the day, when me and Isham started this project and we wanted to build a casual conversation and a group of guys and a community on the internet where we could just chat and talk. This is the first step to do that, and I'm so happy that we have that community engagement. Ishan, if you want to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, as Aniket said, we are absolutely delighted to know that we have a certain set of people who are looking forward to listening to our podcast. It really motivates us to record more. And coincidentally, our topic for today is motivation. So, yeah, before we get into anything like how to get motivated, what exactly is motivation, what do we think, let me just address the elephant in the room, right? The global pandemic. So, obviously, it's a huge factor in motivation. We've seen that mental health statistics have been absolutely deteriorated during the lockdown. And we think that it's essential to address this topic because, as I think it said, we're here to provide a casual and transparent conversation to our viewers. And speaking of the pandemic, there's multiple ways in which me and Aniket have motivated ourselves to actually work, to get started with online school and adapt to a whole new system. And what I wanted to say specifically was that I actually found a lot of time to discover and follow my passion. So if you're listening to this, and I'm pretty sure you must have some idea of what you want to do in life, what you want to do in the short run, in the long run, and just a general sense or a goal that you've set in your mind. And what we've done is we've taken this time to actually sit down and reflect upon our activities and see if they're in line with the goals that we set for ourselves. So if you are able to use this time to reflect your activities, it's a thumbs up from us. And anything you want to say about that, Aniket?
Yeah, sure. I think, during the pandemic, we've all been thrown into a social setting that we're not really used to. I'm talking of the dome here, getting stuck in the room for like 8 hours on end, studying or on some online class.
Yeah.
Your sleep schedule being ruined. You know how my sleep schedule is. Let me not mention that. I think anybody that
Yeah,
knows
that's just
me, yeah, all of that going haywire, it puts you in the situation where you end up feeling quite lonely and out of touch with the rest of the world, especially if you're someone who's socially driven by other people, who like an energizer bunny who kind of gets power from or gets energetic from other people. So that leaves you in this kind of pit of almost self pity, but more, I can't motivate myself if I have nothing to look forward to, right? And that's what this
yeah.
pandemic has kind of put us in. But there are definitely ways in which you can work around it. You can work towards something. You can always motivate yourself. And in this podcast, what we really want to do is just have a talk where we talk about this, because I don't feel there is a conversation between guys of our age, the high school, about 14 to 18 age, about this kind of topic. Even though I feel it's quite important to talk about it, right?
Yeah, so as you said, motivation is essential for people of any age, to be honest, because You need a sense of motivation which will drive you to work towards what you're working towards, and just to give you a sense of direction. And before I move on to our next segment, I would really like to talk about what I do to get motivated personally and what Aniket does. So I'll begin with myself. For those of you who know me closely, you guys know that I'm interested to do business in life, and not in that sense. It sounds a bit sketchy like that, but to graduate with a business degree, and that's just a personal goal that I've set for myself because business is what really is what I'm passionate about in a way, and I have a variety of tricks that I use to motivate myself, especially in the lockdown period. I have a look at different ways in which businesses are adapting. So it's very interesting because the business environment is very dynamic, and obviously after the pandemic, many businesses have made changes, and it's very interesting of how they're able to cope with such a pandemic where every industry is almost going through recession. And Aniket, you want to talk about yourself a little bit?
I think I'll talk about it a little later as well, but
All right.
it's good. It kind of allows us to segue onto our next topic. For me, uh, you know, and a lot of my friends know, some of which I hope are watching the podcast, and some of which I hope are not. Um, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. That I have a trouble with this. I especially had a trouble with it at the beginning of the pandemic, and I still have a trouble with motivating myself from time to time. What I find is that the easiest thing to do, and it's always been the easiest thing, is write up small goals. When I
Yeah.
can almost visually see something to work towards, I'll work towards it. This segues on to our next topic, which is what experiences do me and Ishan have with motivation,
Hmm.
especially in this time. And I want to say, at least for me, when I can visually see what I can gain by motivating, by driving hard, I can do anything. Like when it comes to sports, athletics or something, on a sports day, or if it's an actual athletics competition, it's no issue for me to get motivated because I see that prize, I get it kind of thing. Which sounds cringy as hell, but it's facts. Or say there's a project, say there's like a business project that we have to do, like an entrepreneurial project or something like that. I can see the price, I get it. But in this situation where it's like, bruh, we've been here for like what now, 4 6 months, I don't know how long, I've lost count. I've lost count of time.
Yeah.
But we've been here for 6 months. Every single time, you have an exam. Like I think some of the watchers might relate to this. We had SATs coming up in on August
Hmm.
29th. A lot of people had circled that date, and we were studying towards it. Some people had subject SATs, some people had actual SATs. We were all like really hard working towards it, and then suddenly that we get told that that's not being held for us because the centers can't hold it or something, and that's a huge blow. I know guys were doing 3 tests on that day, and now it's just gone. And now we can't do it next month. We've got to do it the month after. Like, how are we going to motivate ourselves? Because every time we get a goal and we work towards it, it leaves our grasp. How you do motivate yourself in a situation like that, I think, is always just make small goals, goals which you can complete in a day, and that's what I try and do.
Yeah, so that's what we're trying to promote. We're trying to think that, obviously, before I talk more about this, just want to clarify that, in our opinion at least, motivation is completely subjective. So, what works for me, as you can see, clearly doesn't work for Aniket because we're interested in different fields and it's fine. Many people are afraid to accept the fact that they're different and they just want to, stay in line with the people who they're surrounded with, which I mean, I don't have any control to it, but what I'm trying to say here is motivation is subjective. What drives you to work on something is different from what everyone else does. So, what I'm trying to say here is that writing down goals is one of the most important things for me as well, because I've seen people who write goals. For example, I was watching a TED talk of a chess player, and what he had written down on a piece of paper is that I'm going to win an X tournament. And every single time while he's playing chess or he's practicing or whatever, he looks at that paper and then he has that mental barrier that's always motivating him to be like, okay, I'm supposed to work towards winning this title. And at the end of the day, the person won the title and he shared his experiences on a TED Talk. And it was really, it was really like nice to watch it because it it also helped me a little bit because I also write down a few objectives that I'm meant to be meeting. For example, this week I'm supposed to complete this certain program, and then I really find time to actually sit down and prepare towards it. So it really helps us. And moving on to our next
I mean,
sort of topic that
Ishan,
we're
I
going
want
to.
to ask you,
Okay, okay.
why
Yes.
are there any people in your life, maybe that you know, that have
Mm-hmm.
kind of interesting motivation stories? You know, guys who motivated themselves out of the dumps, or anybody like that. Would you be keen to share?
See, so the thing is, I'm 17 years old. I know that life is much longer, and there's a lot of people who's faced a huge downfall that I'm not friends with because
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest, most of my friend group is obviously a bunch of teenagers
It
because
is. It's
they're
all of
close to my
teenagers.
age.
Yeah.
Yeah, the point that I'm trying to say is that I haven't really experienced a huge downfall in life, or I haven't seen anybody, struggle so much and they're just completely deteriorated. They're not able to work anymore.
Mm-hmm.
However, I have seen people who are a bit unorthodox to say the least because these people, a few people, I wouldn't take the names
Yeah,
obviously,
yeah,
but
of course.
they're not motivated to do ordinary things. For example, going to school is one of the most common things ever. Everyone goes to school, right?
Yeah.
and and this person who, I mean, I know that you guys listening to this, you guys might be able to visualize this person. They're not willing to go to school at all. They're not interested in the subjects that are being taught in school. And they're just kind of interested in something completely else. And let me take an example of something that's not taught in school, which is acting, for instance. If I want to be an actor, and there's no really point, there's not a huge point in going to school because I'll be learning subjects like mathematics and sciences, which in the long run are not going to be very useful to me. So that sort of puts down your motivation and passion to work towards a certain subject. And the problem with that is we're not forced, but we're meant to go to school from a very young age. And at that young age, we're not very sure about what we're going to do in the future, obviously. So, for example, if I'm like 10 years old and I'm studying all these various subjects, I'm not really sure as to which one is the one that I excel in, and is there any other subjects apart from this? Because obviously, at a younger age, we're not introduced to very complex ideas. So what I'm trying to say is that people need to sit down and sort of like reflect based on what they want to do in life after they reach a certain part of their life. For example, when I was like 14 or 15, I sat down and I looked at my result, for instance, and I saw that there's a clear pattern, obviously, that I'll be performing well in subjects that I'm interested in and low in subjects that I'm not well in.
Wow, what a shock.
So, anyway, shut up. What I'm trying to say is, once I've sort of identified, okay, I'm doing well in accounts, I'm doing well in chemistry, it's something that it sort of like motivates you in itself, marks as a motivator because if I get 95 out of 100 in a test, obviously I'm going to be very proud of it. I mean, I know a few people, Aniket, that
Actually.
are not very happy with 95, 100 because they want that 100. But for me personally, at least, once I sort of identify that okay, this is my strength and this is a little bit of my weakness, then I can work towards either being either being independent on my strengths or either working on my weaknesses to make sure that I'm a balanced person.
That's an excellent, dude, there are like 15 excellent points there. I think one thing that I wanted to catch that was what you said about. You gave an example of somebody, I'm not going to go into the example, but
Mhm.
there you see someone who's driven in a social setting that doesn't allow them to. They want to follow something which isn't in the norm. Um,
Yeah.
Indian Indian society at our age at least, it's a little bit prejudiced towards things outside of the science streams or the business streams. You know, when it comes to certain art subjects, we're not we're not too
Mhm.
familiar with them, so uh, we don't really understand them. So when somebody says, you know, they want to be an actor or they'd like to go into theater, they would like to go into music production, or something
Mm-hmm.
like that. It comes off like a, you want to do what? Kind of reaction from most of us,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
if you're in that situation and you can still motivate yourself with all the adversity that you're facing, it's really good to have that. And for people like me, a layman, to look at that and be like, bro, if they can motivate themselves, I have to motivate myself. In that kind of that situation which you get into sometimes, right?
Yeah, that's like a whole new way to motivate yourself by being envious from others. Anyway, that's not a negative thing in my
Uh-huh,
opinion.
yeah,
So again, just very quickly, I'm going to mention what I mentioned before. So these people are obviously not surrounded by people who support them. So if they find a right social group where they can really discuss what they want to do in life. If they suppose talk to a counselor, for instance, and the counselor really guides them that, okay, don't worry that yeah, even though acting or music is not one of the most orthodox subjects, but you can still excel in it. You can still
yeah.
follow these courses and set a certain goal for yourself. And that is the kind of thing that you would need because independently, it's very difficult to motivate yourself intrinsically. Sorry about that.
Mm-hmm.
Intrinsically, because if you're surrounded in a social area where people are looking down on certain things, and it's going to be very difficult for you to motivate yourself. Okay, so moving on to the next segment, I just want all of you listening to this to just visualize the certain things that I'm going to say. Okay, we have a person here who's earning a very high income, and the profession of the person is a YouTuber.
Imagine.
So someone like us.
Yeah, he's talking about himself, that those P's and intellect, you don't know.
Okay, okay. Anyways, jokes aside, I'm sure you guys know other YouTubers as well. So, if you think of any other YouTuber who is very successful in terms of numbers only, keep that in mind. And they're not very motivated to record videos and upload after a certain time because YouTube as a profession, after you sort of reach towards the peak of
You
your
get
career,
complacent.
there's not much that you can do.
You get complacent.
And exactly, you get complacent. And even though they're financially secure, they have this money, they have a better standard of living, the lack of motivation would completely bring down their morale. And
Mm-hmm.
if you're comparing this hypothetical YouTuber to another person, again, I want you guys to visualize this. It's very simple. A person who is working as a tutor, a person who's teaching someone, and this audience are underprivileged children, people who need help, people who are not getting the right education, people with a lower income, unfortunately, and if you compare this person who's teaching them to a YouTuber, they're complete opposites. This tutor may not even have an income for all we know because all of the charitable work, all of the NGO work, it's non-profit. You don't get to keep a lot of money, but the passion that this person has, the motivation that he has to drive himself to actually teach is valuable much more than the money that the YouTuber makes. So just to give you a comparison that I wanted to make is that motivation is a huge thing in life, even in the long run, if you're able to identify what you're going to do in life. And
Sure,
if it makes
sure.
you happy, then there shouldn't be anything stopping you, really.
Yeah, yeah. Like yesterday. So
Mm-hmm.
this is of course not, I'm not a tutor who's giving valuable education. I mean, I have a thing related to that, but if you know me, then you know that I don't need to go into that. This is my YouTube channel, not my CV. But I was just gonna say, for example, so I'm someone who's interested in computer science, right? I'm into coding, and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
realistically, I don't get much time to code or read a machine learning thesis or something like that. I don't get much time to do that. But for example, yesterday one of my friends he'd send me a little coding problem,
Mm-hmm.
an interesting one, a simple one, but an interesting one. I'm not gonna go into details, but it sent it, and it was like 1 o'clock in the night. I was like, yeah, sure, let's do this, and I started it, and then I got so into it that the moment I finished, I realized it was 5 o'clock in the night. Because the thing is, I love that. That's something that I found in my life that I really really like doing, right? Which means that I am
Mm-hmm.
motivated end on to finish it or to work on it, right? And as Ishan said, if you can find that, you're on the right track. And even if you don't find that, there'll always be something or something else that's always going to motivate you a lot. It might be something like music, right? That may not be your
Hmm.
end all goal, but it might be something that motivates you, right? You just go out in the balcony, do a freestyle or something, switch on a beat. No, no, I'm just saying, like,
Yeah, yeah. I get it. I get it.
yeah, it's just, it helps a lot to love what you're doing. Otherwise, it's hard to motivate yourself, for sure.
Yeah, sorry about laughing, but the music with what I visualized was someone listening to music for a while on their headphones and then getting back to work. Anyway, uh, like you rightly mentioned, I obviously agree with how time is also very key factor because if I'm spending a lot of time on it, there's a high chance that I like doing it, right? Because
Hmm.
nobody likes doing stuff that they don't like,
That's a
if that
good
makes
point.
sense. Yeah, so as I was saying, time again is a key concept, and what you do in your free time when you're bored is a very valuable thing because I, for instance, I'm a football fan. I know Aniket likes basketball more than football, who knows, but
No, no,
he likes sports in a different way than I like it.
yeah.
And if I'm watching a football match for 2 hours straight, it's obvious that I'm engaged in the match. I'm interested to know what happens towards the end. And later on, if I'm even more interested, I'm sort of like driven to see what happens in other games. For example, if I'm following a Champions League tournament and I see the first game of the season, it's gonna like in a way motivate me to sort of be there throughout the end and see what happens towards the end. What I'm trying to say here is even if you don't have any sense in direction as to what you want to do, which field you want to go into, just notice what you're doing in your free time because even in my free time for me personally, I used to read the newspaper quite a lot and I was surrounded by people who criticize newspapers because for some reason I don't know. But
What?
I ignored all of them. I know it's a
You know
crazy
what I'm
society.
visioning in my mind? This whole like Compton gang, just like, nah, no newspapers in my gang. Not voting for anyone who may
Anyway,
read a newspaper.
anyway, from the newspaper bullies, I I encourage myself to, I want to read at least 2 pages a day just to start things off, to get an idea as to what's the current issue, what are the global issues going
Just read
on,
the
and
advertising
just
pages. Just read one whole page of advertising, like, yeah, that's good reading.
just in the Sudoku page. Anyway, jokes aside, as I was saying, I started reading the newspaper. Even online news works for this. Just reading the news sort of it like opened me up to new things and new applicational concepts which are not exactly taught in school because obviously whatever's happening in the news may not be directly linked to what you're being taught in school or college or university or wherever. So I was being open to a new world in a way, a world where I'm able to sort of see what's going on every single place, if that makes any sense. But
Hmm.
it really when I realized that okay, I'm spending time reading a newspaper, I'm actually enjoying reading the news and finding out what's happening. I
Hmm.
sort of found out that I like to research things. I like to sit down and evaluate what's happening around the world and speak about global issues. And again, global issues is it's a little bit of an iffy thing because it's there's a lot of components to it. There's ethics, there's responsibilities, and all of that stuff. But what I was interested in is the way that the information to me is being presented. Maybe it's statistics, maybe it's an image, whatever it is. For some reason, I like reading newspapers. Okay, just understand it that way. And eventually, after I found out this interest, I started working more towards it. I built up a few skills that helped me in my school, helped me to sort of reach more towards my goal. If I want to get into a good university, I want to create a good CV or a good application form. And to do that, after I realized that, okay, I'm good at analyzing things, I'm good at evaluating things, I can do certain things which can prove that, okay, I've done this thing which helps me pursue a certain degree.
And
So obviously, it's a very big,
that was
okay, go on.
self-reflection, right? At a point where
Mhm.
people usually don't self-reflect, which was something that you touched upon. So what we're trying to
Yes.
say in essence, because you guys have limited time, and I'm really boring. I know that. Is that next time you're procrastinating, you're watching a Netflix show, or you're watching something on YouTube, stop for a second. What are you watching? Why are you watching that? Is there a reason? Are you watching a true crime video? Why are you watching a true crime video? What about it interests you? Walk into that, delve into that. Maybe you'll find something. Maybe you won't. But if you find something, you're better off than you were before. See? It's so simple. And you're never wasting your time. I think that when people say you're wasting your time, man,
Yeah,
you're always gaining knowledge in some way or the other. If you're self critical, if you're analytical, and if you take a step out from what you're doing and look into the activity that you're doing, you'll find out there's a purpose for that. And once you find a purpose to these things, you can motivate yourself because then you have something to work towards.
yeah. So great comparison between how watching YouTube videos is motivating and inspiring. So let's move on a little bit. And now that we've sort of delved into the depth of motivation, right now I would want Aniket you to, from what we've talked about today, just
Mm-hmm.
give me firstly a very small description of what motivation is. And I don't want you to use the textbook definition because I know you won't, firstly. And secondly, just put it in your words so that you're able to express your views. I don't want it to be like, okay, I've heard that motivation is about passion, so passion.
Mm-hmm.
That's one. And secondly, what are the main factors, in your opinion, which helps a person get motivated? Okay, take the show.
So we've covered a lot of this in the podcast so far, but for me, motivation is nothing but a key with which you can open your potential. I'm talking metaphorically. Um,
Yeah, yeah, of course.
it may just be one of the most key things that you need when you're working towards anything, right? As for what it is in a physical sense of the word, I won't be able to give you. I can't give you a
Mm-hmm.
three-word thing that it is, but it's just this feature or this part of the human psyche, I guess would be the
Mm-hmm.
correct word, that propels you forward and allows you to do anything in the world that you want. To have a drive is probably one of the most revered things that anybody would want to have. I know in my life, I've seen people who, no offense, but people who are not talented or not that talented in certain areas. Okay,
Raw.
I know I'm calling people out, but I'm not. But there are, people do end up in
Yeah.
situations where they're not really that talented for it. God, they work, dude. They work so hard because they have this goal that they want to reach, right? And they work so hard to work so hard on it, and then they get to the same level that you're at, or they get to the level above you, and you're like, I can't even hit, you know? It's damn good.
Yeah, yeah. I
So
get it. I
that's
get
what
it.
it is. It's a key to open any avenue that you want to open. A key that you have to understand very well. And what factors affect it? Uh, what factors affect motivation? What factors affect motivation for a person? Well,
If not a person, just think about yourself. What motivates you personally, if
what
you don't
motivates
mind?
me personally? So for me, as I said, to have a visual goal in front of me is something that helps a lot. I
Mm-hmm.
also work a lot of seeing other people do well and me not do well. So let me explain that a little bit. That's not exactly what I'm trying to
Yeah,
say. So
yeah.
I get motivated when I see other people around me getting motivated. It's a kind of domino effect. When I see other people, really working hard on something, I'm like, damn, yo, I should be working hard on something as well, kind of thing. And then, I see that, and then I talk to myself on how I can motivate myself. And I think two things which really, really correlate with each other is motivation and keeping healthy, and keeping healthy from a physical point of view, whether that's exercise or I don't know, meditation. I heard one of my friends does meditation, which is kind of mad. Props to
Mm-hmm.
him. Meditation or whatever, and physical well-being as well. And physical well-being may not always be about how to take care of a certain mental ailment that you're suffering from or that you might suffer from, but also things like planning your time correctly, or getting things done which helps you in your head, right? And when you're healthy
Mm-hmm.
in these two ways, it really helps you get motivated. Once you're good in this, you're good in that. Once you're good in that, you're good in this. And then it's just kind of a, rebound effect, and it helps you so much. So that's what affects my motivation. Being in a good state of mind. I don't know if I'm in a good state of mind right now. I am. I don't know. I don't think about it.
Get up, buddy.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, that was probably the best motivation definition I've ever heard. Just wanted to point
No
that out
way.
because no, for real, because I see a lot of people, and obviously, one of the things that you mentioned is not being sort of envious or being jealous of someone, but just to watch the sheer happiness in someone's face after they do something. It obviously will motivate you to, because if I'm looking at one of my friends who's achieved this in life, and now they're happy, they have a good job with good salary, they've got a good family to look after. That in one way should be a motivating factor for everyone. I mean, obviously it's subjective, but
Mm-hmm.
once you're able to visualize yourself being in a situation where you're going to be completely happy, where you know what you're doing in life, where you sort of reach a stage where you have financial security, you're able to
Mm-hmm.
implement what your thoughts are there in your mind. So what I'm trying to segue into is a little bit towards the creative and innovative bit. So obviously, this is I've mentioned it 5 million times. It's subjective, but for me, being creative, the ability for me to put my own little twist on something, or for me to be able to sort of change the format, be a little bit
Mm-hmm.
unorthodox in a way, be a little bit unconventional to say. It really helps me because if suppose I'm working and I'm supposed to may write an article for someone, and if they give me like, okay, you can only use three vowels, you can only use one word, you can only
Mm-hmm.
define it in a certain way, it sort of limits my mind to think in a very narrow-minded perspective,
For
if
sure,
that
for
makes
sure.
any sense.
Mm-hmm.
So once I have the creativity to, okay, my topic is this, I can either talk about this complete side of it or this complete side of it or just anything really. I can, if I'm able to, if I have the freedom to mismatch what I'm able to work with, it's really nice for me at least, because once I get to add my innovative bit, it sort of person to me. So this podcast, for instance, we obviously are not talking. For some of you, this might make no sense at all. I'm sure there might be people who cannot relate to us at all.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're trying to do here is a little bit more for ourselves, because once you're able to see what's in our minds, it sort of makes us a little bit more relaxed, and it sort of
Right.
motivates us to look forward to making more episodes. And if you guys are honestly, this is not like a promotion thing, but honestly, if you guys have enjoyed this podcast, do let us know. If you guys hated the podcast, do let us know.
Yeah, do.
We don't, we're not forcing you guys to, okay, hit the like, hit subscribe, and
Mm-hmm.
it's always going to be good. We do appreciate, what's the word for it? Constructive criticism.
Mm-hmm.
So, any thoughts in your mind, just leave it in the comments. It's really going to help us identify what we can do more or less of.
The podcast
Anyway,
wasn't born out of we don't want to get rich through this because
obviously,
that's not our interest. We didn't really want to see the numbers. We're not allured by fame or by some imagination of what a world would be where we are at the top. That's not what we that's not what our vision was when we started this or when we thought about this in the genesis of the project. It was nothing but providing a casual conversation, a kind of mental therapy almost, where you can,
mhm,
if you're relaxing or you're studying, you just put on our podcast, you just listen and you kind of relax, like just listen to some guys talking about some random stuff, and just feel relaxed because you feel like there are people near you, that's
mhm,
something that's such a. I found myself listening to so many podcasts over this period, last 6 months, because
yeah,
it's like I just need people around me, dude. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
those people become your friends almost, which is kind of a
yeah.
bit sad, but it's what it is, right? And that's what we wanna provide you in a way as well, a kind of comfort net. Ishan, I want to ask you a question actually.
Go on.
When you're doing a task, all right, where there's
Mm-hmm.
not a visible goal, where there's not like a mark or a certificate or something like that. Like this, for
Yeah,
example, like this project that we're
yeah.
doing right now. What is it that motivates you then in that case? Or what do you use to motivate yourself?
So, firstly, there's a variety of tasks that I can find online and that I've done before, which don't really, the input to output ratio, if we speak about, the input that I put in will be much higher than what I'll be actually achieving from it. And there are instances where I've come across these projects, but what motivates me to do that really is my passion towards what the topic is, or if not that, then what am I able to learn from it?
Mm.
And this podcast, let's just make this clear. I think everybody knows that we don't make any money from it. It's just something we wanted to
We
do.
are
We're not
going
getting
to.
any certificate from it.
Yeah.
So obviously, the role of certificate or the role of sort of merit or appreciation is to create an incentive for you to work. But
Mm.
in instances where you don't have this, incentive to work towards it, it's when you truly identify yourself, in my opinion, because if I'm sitting down and if I'm looking at stuff that I can do online, and if I'm actually really interested in doing something like playing the piano or something, and I know that there's no huge certificate I'll get, but if I'm able to visualize myself having a great time, having to learn the skills, having to be involved in the music community, if I'm able to sort of visualize myself and the things that I'll be taking away from this, it's really going to motivate me. And even again, we're coming back to our whole podcast again. I didn't expect. I did first video. Aniket was like, "We're not gonna get any views, bro. You're
Yeah,
being
yeah.
too optimistic." And I understand why he's saying that, because obviously it's very subjective what we're talking about. There's
I'll tell you
millions.
what my expectations were, so the viewers actually know. I expected. I think you remember me writing this in our little plan. Um,
Yeah.
10 subs, 30 views max. That was my expectations. No cap. Kevin.
Yeah. So what I told to Aniket was, obviously that's his way of looking at things. I shared my perspective that okay, we're gonna hit 50 subscribers in our first day itself. We're gonna hit 50 likes in the first day. We're gonna get 1,000 views or something. And obviously, I'm talking about mad numbers. Maybe we not hit those ever in the future. But for me to able to visualize myself and our podcast growing to such an extent, it's another motivating factor. For example, right now we're at like 25, 26 subscribers.
Oh,
So now that I know that my goal is 60 subscribers for now, I'll be working my heart, my soul towards making sure that people are subscribing, to make sure that people are more engaged with our work and people are appreciating our work. And if I'm going to set my goals a little bit lower, obviously it'll be much easier to achieve it. But after a certain point, you'll be like, okay, I've done this. What's next? So
yeah.
again, that's one way for me, is that how I motivate myself. Sorry.
A lot of what we're in right now is surrounded by the pandemic, whether you want to believe it or not. You know, a lot of people are like, oh, COVID, I forgot about COVID, bro. I'm going out and buying like cheese or whatever. Like, sure, but it's
Jeez.
still a massive effect on your life. But a lot of what I'm trying to say is a lot of our lives have been affected by this whole
Mhm.
scenario, right? And what we want to say and what I want to say, because if anybody that knows me, anybody that watched like maybe the first two episodes as well, you can gauge that I am not an optimist. That's not. I'm a realist. I'm very much realistical. That's not. Is that a word? I don't know. Uh, I'm very much realistic in my expectations and my thoughts. But even in that, you know, you can still find joys and you can still find things that are really interesting. For example, in this pandemic, again, we name no names, we drop no names because we value privacy. All right, we're very ethically ethical.
Okay.
uh, um,
Great.
I remember. So this is a person that I sort of know. I would say I know them. Uh, and during this whole pandemic, while most of us have been like at least procrastinating 2 hours longer than we usually do, you know, we probably watched like three more Netflix series than we should really be watching. There's this
Mhm.
one person who, when I say they've been on the grind, I mean they've been on a grind. I really can't name the achievements because anybody from my school knows who I'm talking about. But Jesus Christ, dude, okay, how can I explain this to our viewers? This X person that is not going to be named, all right, they went from
Mm.
having an organization which was a city-based organization, which was very good, all right, and during this pandemic where communication is less, all right, where funding is less, where consumer expectations are much more pessimistic, right? This person's gone international in like 5 different countries, all right, uh, won like some of the most prestigious awards that you really can at our age for whatever work that they're doing. And to look at that and to be like, whoa, man, yo, that's so mad. And to see that that's the potential of things that you can do in this pandemic. It lets you almost be like, bro, COVID, you ain't nothing to me, man. I can do whatever I want still. And that's something that I want anybody who's like me, anybody who's a realist who's like, oh yeah, everything bad, everything sad. You know, if anybody's like that, just think about that, dude. Like people are doing so much still. Even I've done a bit during this time. You know, actually I won't go into that, but I've done a bit. Ishan's done a lot during this time as well. A lot of people have done a lot. There's so much potential, you know. And once you find something that you love, you can work towards it. Whether there's COVID, whether there's like a zombie apocalypse, whether there's anything, you can always work towards it when you find something that you love. And that's just something that I want to say, and this coming from the heart, so it's not very clear, but yeah.
Okay, okay. Uh, just to say what I learned from your story is that person is obviously there's a big difference between being a realist or an optimist or a pure pessimist. But what that person, in my opinion, I know Aniket, but I don't know his friend. Okay, just understand my situation today. I don't know that person, but based on how you've described him to me, it almost feels as if that person is going down the right track because he's obviously achieved this award. He's gone international, and once one more thing that I wanted to point out is once you sort of get encouragement or get achievements based on what you're doing, it's a huge motivating factor. For example, if I top in a random exam, it's not a random exam. So, example, if I top in an SAT exam in my school at least,
Hmm.
I will have this psyche or this psychological factor in my mind. Ki, okay, I'm doing very well in SATs. I know what I'm doing in life, and I just need to go down the right track.
When
So
you're
it's going to
saying that,
motivate me to
I'm gonna interrupt. I'm gonna
yeah.
interrupt because it's really essential. I mean, I feel it's very essential that I have to say this. But there, whatever Ishan's gonna say, listen close because there's such a thin line between being complacent and using your achievements for good. Just listen on.
Okay, put pressure on me. I have to speak nicely now. Anyway, I'm just saying this from my heart. Obviously,
Hmm.
you may take it importantly, you may neglect it, whatever.
Hmm.
But if if you have those achievements in your hand, if you're able to sort of present it to someone who doesn't know you, okay, I've done this, these are my plans. It sort of sets a good impression on you as well. And it's not just you showing off. For example, at one point in my life, I'm going to be criticizing myself here.
Hmm.
At one point in my life, I was just chasing what was being cool in a way, and
Hmm.
people go through phases. Okay, don't judge me, but I was trying to get involved in the football team, get involved in random activities, get involved in the student council, and even though it wasn't something that was perfect for me, I still wanted to do it because people around me were doing it, and people around me were sort of a little bit more
Oh,
superior because I mean,
okay.
it's not that deep, okay?
No,
It's
no,
just
it
a
is.
student football team. I don't want it to be that deep because it's weird for me to say it now. But once I sort of realized, okay, there's 20 people in the team, and every time they win a match or something, they get an appreciation from a higher authority from our school or something like that. Just for instance, then I sort of want to be a part of that group as well. And even if for example, I see if I'm working for an X company and then I see a Y company that's booming through, it's going so well, and people are being recognized here and there, people have been getting bonuses after bonuses. I would in a little bit in the back of my mind, I'd be like, okay, these people are at this stage of their life. What am I doing with my life? Why can't I? reach that stage. So it's really important that you look at it from a positive perspective, because what I had done wrong was I knew. See, obviously back then I was still a football fan. I still
Mm-hmm.
wanted to be in the team anyway, but because additionally these people were getting a little bit, and it's not something rude. It's not that deep. Again, I just want to clarify. It's just a very simple thing. Okay, these guys were in the team, and everybody liked it, and everyone like, okay, you're in the team, wow, wow, wow. So I then set a goal for myself. By the end of the year, no matter what, I'm gonna train. I'm gonna lose weight. I'm gonna do this, that to make sure that I play for this team or whatever. And eventually, I did get into the team, but not to flex here. But it's something that I had a very negative outlook on it, because I really wanted to chase something which is beyond what I'm capable of, or beyond what I'm sort of supposed to be doing. For example, I'm interested in, let's say, if I'm interested in computer science, I want to be a coder, and then I see this person who is in the basketball team. He's doing fantastic. Everyone's appreciating him. He's getting goals. So I'll be like, okay, damn, this guy's actually pretty cool. I may be like him. I can sort of follow his route or follow his path towards where he is right now, and I can be the same as this guy. But what I'm trying to say is, keep if you know exactly what you're doing in life, it doesn't matter if you get a lot of recognition or not. Because if you remember a few minutes ago, I mentioned about a certain person, an example of a person working in a charity or an NGO where they work as a tutor, even though they don't get the respect of a Bollywood actor, for example. Obviously, they don't get the same amount of respect, but still, their job in their head is more important. Their job in their head is more valuable for others, and that is something very critical. What I was thinking of before is, in my mind, is if I get this, it'll be better for other people to know that, okay, this is guy called Deshan. He's in the team. He's good in that. So what's really important now is I identify myself and my own goals and achieve it. And I don't, obviously, external influences do play a role, and there are a few instances where you need to sort of grasp it. Okay, there's this award that I need to achieve, and that's a positive way of looking at things. For example, Aniket is into coding, and there's this coding competition, for example. And obviously, Aniket knows these are my strengths. I'm good at this sort of coding or whatever. Then he can sort of write down, okay, whatever happens, I'm working towards winning that award. It's not something like Aniket sees a person who is playing a violin or something, and he's being recognized all around the world, and he's like, okay, even though I'm good at coding, I'm going to learn to play the violin just so that I can get that recognition.
It's you. You're different to what X and Y and theta and zeta are, you know. You're what you're made for, the purpose that you're gonna serve is gonna be different to what everybody else is gonna be doing. What Ishan's saying there is so important. Don't work for others, work for yourself, right? That's something that I've gone through for so long, dude. I always put myself in a situation where I was working for others, where I was trying to do something for somebody else, you know, whether that's your parents or to impress
Mhm.
like the school faculty or something like that, right? And it
Mhm.
doesn't motivate you, man. It doesn't because you're not doing it for yourself. It's not you are not gonna get really happy of it. So once you
Yeah.
find something that you are gonna get happy out of, you're gonna be happy from, then only is it gonna be something that you can get motivated for. Um, I want to just say something, and here I'm talking to the fans. I'd love it if you guys could let me know down in the comments, or maybe if you're not comfortable with the public forum, you know, let us know personally on a DM or something. So, what me and Ishan, when we made this podcast, and you know, I'm sure you guys have realized this as well, it's not as rigidly structured as the last one. We made
Exactly.
this a bit off the cuff with this
Mhm.
podcast because we wanted to see what style is more engaging to you guys. This is a more conversation based, like we going off each other, and there will be times when we're going to be repeating what we say, right? I'm
Of
sure
course.
Ishan has noticed that while I've been speaking, and you
Dude,
know that's
you read my mind. Holy
huh?
shit.
But you know
Anyway.
that's something which is there, but it's more real. This is a more genuine conversation. So you know guys, let us know what form of delivery you guys prefer more? Do you prefer a more rigid structure where there are kind of more numbers in front of you and there's more facts backing what we're saying, or do you prefer this kind of conversation around the tabletop thing? Let us know. Uh,
Okay, 1 second before we properly end it. Just wanted to clarify this again. That again, as Aniket said, that we didn't have any structure whatsoever. We did jump around from one topic to another topic to examples to tips or whatever. But essentially, what we're expressing is what comes to our mind first, what comes to our heart first, and it's very opinion based. And what I've spoken about with my instances is very personal to me. And if you guys are comfortable with us talking with a little bit more opinion based and what is factual based. Such as we haven't even spoken about any motivation theories used in the practical world. We haven't talking about money as a motivating factor, which
mm,
I do understand because it doesn't relate to us.
mm,
You guys understand? If you guys understand that we are trying to build a community where we sort of like go off the script completely and just express our opinions, then if you do enjoy this sort of a format, then again do let us know in any form. And
and if
yeah,
you
just
enjoy the
to
other
wrap
one,
up.
if you enjoy the
Okay,
other
okay.
one, so I'm so
Yeah,
sorry, I've
yeah.
camped in your place there.
No, 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 it's cool, it's cool. It's important. Go on.
If you enjoy the other one as well, let us know. Tell us that this is rubbish. I want to see the other one because that's the only way we'll know. Be blunt, man. No issues. We're
Yeah.
here. Go on,
Great.
go on.
Anyway, just to wrap it up completely, we really, 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 really appreciate you guys making to the end of this podcast. Hopefully, you guys had a good time. Hopefully, you did enjoy a few bits. Do let us know whatever comes to your mind, even if it's 3 words like "this is bad." It's enough for us. Just let us know where we went wrong, where we went right, and what did you relate to the most. Just anything in the comments is fine. We're open to constructive criticism. And yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know, just leave a like on the video, subscribe if you're not new, because over 150 people viewed the podcast, but only 25 of you subscribed. So
Sure.
the maths doesn't work out there. So if you're new here, make sure to subscribe, smash that button. And anything you want to say before we end?
Um, yeah, sure. One day, ending note. I talk a lot. I mean, I've been talking for like
Yeah.
an hour now, longer. Um, what was I gonna say? Yeah, we're not experts about motivation. I haven't done a BSc in motivation for 4 years and then a master's on motivation. All right, I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert on football. I'm not an expert on basketball. I'm not an expert on esports. That's not what this is. It's a conversation, right? So if there's something wrong, I've said factually, let me know. But don't get angry at me because I'm not being an expert or a critic or something like an academically oriented person on this podcast. This is just a place for us to chill and make a conversation. As for what Ishan said, I'm going to double down on that. Leave a like if you want to. We'd like to have more likes. Please subscribe because there'll be more content coming, especially with your input. Um,
Hmm.
the content evolves with your input essentially with what the fans say. Whatever the fans say, we kind of work on that. So subscribe. It's only going to get better from here. Please, please, please let us know. I'm begging. Please let us know in the comments. What we can do better, what we can do worse, whether you like this or you like the first podcast style. And with that, it's a wrap. Bye bye. See you guys and have a great day and a great week. See you next Sunday, lads.
Okay, peace.
Alright, I'm wrapping it.